Hey, Lauren here. We're talking house value today, or there's a bunch of numbers that are associated with the cost of your house. And we're going to specifically talk about your purchase price, the appraised price, and the assessed value. And why are they all... We're talking about the exact same property. Why are they all different? So the purchase property, and especially now in such a crazy seller's market right now, homes are going for a lot of money, and they're doing something called an appraisal gap. And that means the difference between the sale price and then the appraisal value. You have to pay that difference. So we are talking about your home value right now, and there's 3 different numbers that all talk about your number, or 3 main numbers, which is your purchase price. Then you have something called the appraised value, which you hire a licensed appraiser to give you a value of the home. Sometimes you need this if you're getting a loan, or you just want to double check the value of the home to make sure you're not overpaying for something. And then you have something called an assessed value that is on your taxes. And so your purchase price, pretty clear. It's what you paid for it. The appraisals are apparently opinions, and I've learned this the hard way. But even though you do hire a licensed professional to get a value for your home, it should be, a good appraisal should be very close to what the price is, what your home is actually worth when you get a competent appraiser. Not all appraisers are equal, so be careful who you hire. And then the third today I wanted to focus on is the assessed value, and some red flags to look for when you're purchasing a house, and the ramifications of having an assessed value that is inaccurate. Since we are talking about the same property, and the assessed value has to do with your taxes, so that's why it's important. And it can kind of throw some curveballs in a home purchase, especially if you're doing, so the assessed value is how much the city believes your home is worth, and then you pay a mill rate and you pay the levy, and it's basically how you get your property taxes. And you want to make sure when you put an offer in on a house, you want to make sure your realtor knows how to explain to you the taxes, how the property taxes are calculated, and if there's going to be any changes in the assessed value, because there are times where the assessed value is not accurate. I know, guys, you are going to argue with me that the government doesn't always have it right. Just stick with me for a minute. So the assessed value can be off when you purchase a property. And let's say you have a property that hasn't been on the market for 30 years, and then all of a sudden it comes up. So it's got an old home value, hasn't been sold in a long time, the city hasn't updated it. Let's say the taxes were $1,000 on it. But then your realtor sees that, like, oh yeah, the taxes are really low. That's convenient, or that's odd. And that's because the assessed value hasn't come up, even though the house value has. So that's something to look out for if you're buying a house that hasn't been assessed lately, or if it hasn't been on the market, so it's an older home, or it hasn't been on the market recently. So the government doesn't have updated numbers, and then you can get an assessment. So you do when you buy your house, you think you've got everything planned because you're like, man, the taxes are $1,000, and now all of a sudden the next year you own your house, they're now $3,000, and that just screws up all your payments right there. So that is a unwelcome surprise, and you need to be cognizant of the assessed value and seeing if it is in the same line of what its actual value. And usually there are percentages there. So like one of the investment properties I have now, they're doing 70%. They're taxing you on 70% of the assessed value. So there is some creative financing with the government there. But you do want to make sure your realtor can explain to you if the taxes might go up, and they can go up by a lot. Or sometimes I've seen it where homes were valued really high from like 2008. They still haven't really recovered, but for some reason they never appealed the taxes, and so you have drastically high taxes compared to all the neighbors, because that can prevent you actually from getting an offer on your house. If you are on the flip side, instead of buying, you are selling, and you have an assessed value that is really high, and your house isn't actually worth that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check the tax rates.